So I've really learned over the last couple of years about the phases of parenting and childhood, and like everything is a phase. And so what I've really been trying to do, and what's helped me a lot in the difficult phases, is to remind myself that this is a phase and what can I get out of it. I do not want to go through this difficult phase and come out empty-handed.
Welcome to Imperfect Momming. Our children are constantly looking to us for examples. The term role model doesn't quite cut it here. We are shaping their worldview with every move we make. You see, it's not in the lectures we give or moments where we are actively attempting to teach them. It's in the micro movements we make, the unconscious ways in which we navigate life. We are constantly teaching our children how to show up for themselves, their friends, their future partners, and even their future children. So what can we do to ensure we are raising thoughtful, compassionate, self-aware human beings? We have to become them ourselves. No one is perfect, but we can still all be better, and it starts with self-healing. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Imperfect Momming. I'm Alicia Lyons, your mom support coach and host, and we have a very special guest today, Ashley Wall. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I am really excited. I love what you're doing on here.
Well, thank you so much. So tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm Ashley, and I'm a mom, former teacher. I was a teacher, turned stay-at-home mom, turned author publisher. And so now I am business owner, still mom, juggling all of that. So that's where we're at now.
Awesome. So, I'm mom, author, coach. So I want to know how you're mom, author, publisher.
Yeah, well, when I've been for years wanting to write a children's book, and I come from the education background. And so I was finally, after praying about it for a while, like, okay, talk to my husband, I want to write a children's book. And he's like, well, yeah, that sounds great. We'll publish it ourselves and start a publishing company. And I was like, okay. So it just kind of jumped right in there on a Sunday afternoon in our backyard. He's like, we have a clear direction of what you want to do. And we thought how cool. There's probably so many other parents and people out there who have book ideas, and they just don't know what to do with it, and how fun to bring their stories to life, and impact kids' life with reading and then other adults. So started the company, and here we are.
Do you know what I heard in your story? I heard a very supportive husband, because a lot of times we have these ideas and then we go and say it to someone. It doesn't have to be a husband, but we say it to somebody. And I always say well-meaning adults,
right,
walk us out of our brilliant ideas.
Yes, and I've heard so many of those stories. People say, I shared someone with my idea, and they shut it down, or they were negative about it. And it confuses me, because I'm like, why? You got to find the positive people in your circle. And luckily we've had some negativity, of course, it's life, but through social media and my friends and family, it's been incredible, the support, like that author community and these other authors who are just beginning and established. They're so supportive and encouraging. So if anybody is having that negativity when they're bringing their ideas up, go find somebody else to talk to. Find somebody who's going to be your cheerleader and your support system, and who's going to be in your corner. Get on my Instagram. I'll be in your corner. You just got to lift each other up. So yes, he's been very supportive the whole way.
That's awesome. And I think somebody said on a previous podcast that, like, of the millions of people who want to write books, only 1% of them actually do it. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean you can't be the 1%.
Exactly. I just met with a girlfriend yesterday for coffee who wants to write a cookbook. And she was like, well, I don't know why people would want my book. And I was like, why not your book? They got to buy someone's book. It should be your book, So why not you? You can absolutely do it. And something my grandpa always said, he's like, it's crowded at the bottom. He's like, there's a lot of room at the top. And so I've always remembered that, there's a lot of people who are still sitting in the dugout, not coming up to bat. You got to get out and you got to do it.
Yeah. And you miss 100% of the chances you don't take, or the
Exactly.
balls you don't swing at, or whatever the quote is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So when did this brilliant idea come into fruition or happen? And then when did it come into fruition?
Yeah, so I'm coming from that education background. I read to my kids from the beginning, from, the days we brought them home. I read to them every day. And so we went through hundreds, thousands of children's books. And, we would have ones we loved and ones that we didn't love. And my husband actually kind of had said it a lot when my kids were really little, like, we could write a book. And he was always throwing out ideas. And then I started to get ideas. I would, like, after reading the books at nap, I would come into my office and write some ideas down or type some up. But that was over a couple of years. It was just kind of here and there. It did stick always in the back of my mind. And when I was looking to get back into the working world, I didn't know. I knew I didn't want to go back in the classroom, but I thought maybe I'll get my PhD and work at the college level. That was kind of the path I was taking. But God was like, we've got another path for you. It's right here. And I was just really overwhelmed one Sunday to write the book. And that was a little over 2 years ago now. It was in August, 2 years ago. And so, and then actually that's not even the book, the one that I was inspired to write, or the ones that I had been kind of rough drafting, that led our company. And so then a year ago, last September, is when we launched our first book. And then we brought on a couple other authors. We've launched their books. Now, starting in 2025, we'll have, a couple handfuls of authors and more of their books and my books. And we're really starting to grow and build momentum now. So it's really exciting.
I think children's books are fun because you can think of different ways to give a life lesson.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, like we really wanted to focus on having fun in our books. Like, we just want kids to just have a good time and love reading. It's so important for cognitive development. So we really wanted kids to just have fun. So our books, like, number one, were like fun and imagination. And they're like, okay, now what lessons can they learn in there? Kindness, teamwork, perseverance, all the things. But you can do it in such a fun way.
Yeah, definitely. And when I'm just thinking about, there's two books that the pastor at my church sent my son when our cat was hit by a car, and then also when my dad passed away. So there were these two different books that dealt with losing someone. And I was so grateful for both books, but specifically for that first one, because just because that's such a hard thing to deal with. And I think it's called The Invisible Leash or something like that. But it's such a beautiful story, and it gives kids the opportunity to understand big concepts,
right,
that are, but chunked down for their brains.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It helps them understand it. And then even though these are book characters, it helps them feel like they're not alone. Like, oh, this other person, is going through that too. And that was something that always helped me as a mom too, especially being a first-time mom and all the different phases of being a mom, where when you're not alone and there's other moms going through that, it just really takes a weight off. And so I feel like that is what books can do for kids too, is, like you said, they lost, a pet and a loved one, and, riding bikes or being bullied, all these different things that kids are like, oh, look at these characters in this book. They're going through it too. I'm not alone. And that's a really comforting feeling.
Yeah. So what was your book about?
So I have a book series now. The first book that we launched is called The Day I Had a Bulldozer, and it's this group of 4 friends whose imaginations take them on these adventures where their toys come to life. So the first one, they each have their own construction vehicle, and they get to ride on it and build a road to the ice cream shop. And then the next one is their dinosaurs come to life. And it doesn't say it in the book that, it's not real. So it kind of hints at it. So kids are like, oh, they have these dinosaurs. And so then the next one that's coming out in the spring, they're firefighters for a day. So it's really about like empowering kids to use your imaginations. They're the narrator of the book. They're the ones making the decisions in the book, to dream big. You can do anything. So that's what this first big series is about.
Yeah. Okay. I just had an idea
I love it.
for a children's book, and I will freely pass it along to you. But the way that my brain went is like, oh, we should write a book about I want to be president. And then I was like, well, what do kids want to do right now is they want to be TikTok stars. So we can take them wanting to be a TikTok star and make it, put them more into the STEM.
Yeah, totally.
Even. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, no, I love that so much because I've always written novel type books. Even it might have been 500 words, but it was a novel.
Right? Yeah.
When I was younger, I always wrote novels type books, but I've never had. I won't say I never had the desire to write a children's book, but I never had the follow through. Because we have these two dogs that are exact opposite in every single way. And I was like, what a fun children's book that would be. Right. Anyway, but I love that you took this idea and you're like, well, I don't want to go back to the classroom, which I don't blame you. And
I
what
know,
else?
it's unfortunate. Yeah. I did love teaching though. Teaching was great. It was amazing for the time that I spent in the classroom.
Absolutely. And everyone in my family is a teacher. So I'm like, I get not wanting to go back to the, the classroom too. But I know it's also richly rewarding. And did you teach younger grades when you were a teacher?
I taught middle school math.
Oh, middle school.
So a little different from what I'm doing now, but
yeah.
But it's fun because I go and do author reading, so I get to go back into the schools and read and talk about books and literacy and all that, and so it's really fun to still have that interaction with kids.
That's a lot of fun. And a really good idea. I have a client who, when I met her, she was like, I really want to publish a book, and that's what she wanted to do. And so we were kind of brainstorming. So now she's published the children's book. And we were brainstorming ways of getting it out there and getting her to sell her book. And that wasn't one of my ideas. So I love that.
Oh, it's so fun. Yeah. The kids love it. Schools love it. It's really fun.
Yeah. Cool. So what has been the most surprising part of your journey?
Oh, so much of it. I came from teaching kids and now running a business. One of the things that my husband and I were both surprised at the beginning was how long everything takes. From when you have the idea, and some of our authors, they've come to us with these books, these manuscripts that they've had for years. But just, you've got to go through editing and illustrations and formatting and printing and get the books here. And then you've got to have the pre-launch, promotions and reviews. And so it's 12 months at the minimum, really 18 months or more that you need. So that was something that we didn't know. I mean, we didn't know a lot of this, but, and then just now we're having to do the sales and marketing, the business side of it. And so that has been a lot to learn, especially for me. My husband comes from the business world. So he helps out a lot with that. But for me, I'm like, marketing, advertising, put myself out there. What? So those have been the big learning curves and surprises. Oh, I have a book now. I need to sell it.
Yeah, imagine that. What type of books do you publish, or do you specifically do, or only do children's books, or do you do others?
Yeah, we're all children's books right now. We are all picture books, starting to grow into some elementary chapter books, into some early readers. We do want to stick to the children's maybe get into YA a little bit, like the middle school levels, but that's probably where we would end it, at least, for now, for our foreseeable future. We started it with our kids because we're reading so many picture books. So that's what we were in. Now my daughter's a little older. She's gotten into chapter books. So now we're like, okay, well, now we're inundated with chapter books. And so as our kids grow and as what we're surrounded by grows, then I think the company will grow with that as well. And then as we, accumulate more authors, then their stories will come in and add to that. But we do, I've always worked with kids. So that's always been my passion. Education and literacy is our passion, especially, working with underserved kids who don't have the books at home. We really try to promote and get books into their hands as well. So I think that we will probably always stick with, the kids' books.
Yeah. That's so fun.
It is fun. You get to use your imagination and just be creative, and you can have a talking unicorn, and like, who doesn't love that?
Yeah. And I was just reading in a book today that imagination is such an important part about, or our development, and who we are, and like essentially believing in magic and I don't remember what she said about why it's important, but I just remember that being topic and what she said.
It's crazy that all that imagination does, because it helps with your critical thinking and your empathy and your problem solving, because you can only think one small way, then you can't see other avenues to solve a problem, or you can't relate to how other people are feeling. Our motto is actually a child who can imagine into the child who can change the world. You have to also be able to imagine and see yourself doing these great things, visualize yourself. I am going to do this. And these kids, to empower them to use their imaginations and not just think one way, but there's all different kinds of ways to think, and there's all different kinds of ways to solve problems. And so imagination is huge. And unfortunately, I feel like imagination is getting a little lost, especially with screens and all of that. So that's another big thing that we are trying to promote is imagination, and getting kids to just think big and be creative, and there's no limits and no wrong answers, when you're using your imagination and you're being creative.
And I don't know if you said this specifically, but I know that stories can, that they teach empathy. It teaches you, because developmentally kids don't have, it's not something that we have just kind of naturally, or maybe it needs to be taught younger or something. But in my coaching program, we play Jeopardy as a review of so in the second level course, we do a review of the first level using Jeopardy. And one of the questions is, what is the mother of all coaching tools? And the answers is metaphors, stories.
Yeah.
Right? Because it gives you, because people find themselves inside of stories.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then they learn the lesson that was meant to learn in that book. So
yeah, it's a walk in somebody else's shoes, and empathy is a great thing for kids to learn through reading. Absolutely. You're spot on.
Yeah. Is there a piece of advice that you want to share with moms listening?
I have really kind of come to I feel like this is like my go-to advice now for moms. And it's because I had a tough time with potty training with my son, and just all the phases really with having a son. I had a daughter first, and it was like, color, play with dolls, read, be calm. And then my son comes in here and, and he's like, tea party, let's throw the tea party. Like, just wild.
Destroy.
Yeah, I'm going to just smash everything. So I've really learned over the last couple of years about the phases of parenting and childhood, and like everything is a phase. And so what I've really been trying to do, and what's helped me a lot in the difficult phases, is to remind myself that this is a phase, and what can I get out of it? I do not want to go through this difficult phase and come out empty-handed. I need to come out better. I need to come out as a better parent, as a better person, and my child needs to come out of it better, and our relationship needs to be better. So when I'm in those difficult times, I remind myself, this is a phase. This will end, and we will be over it. But while I'm in it, what can I get out of it? What can I bring out of it? And it really makes the phase so much easier, even though it's still difficult. But I'm like, don't go through that hard time and come out empty handed. You come out with some handfuls of good stuff, you know, and being a better person. So that's really helped my mindset. You know, just kind of changing the way that you think about those difficult times and changing your mindset on it would be my advice.
What a beautiful mindset. And I was thinking too, about, you know, children's books for adults, like,
Yeah.
because a lot of moms were busy, right?
Yeah.
So we have the time to read about 20 pages with giant pictures and 10 words on it.
Yeah.
And so you do and that idea came from Sex and the City, but that didn't get produced, or that little book that she was talking about. Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, it's all of life is about learning lessons, and it's a journey. And you know, I believe we're here to evolve. And if you are going into these phases that you know are going to be difficult, with the expectation of I'm going to learn something and come out better on the other side, then as long as you do that, then that's a win. And that's
right.
Like, we can control like whether or not we learn something. If we go looking for the lesson, we're gonna find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just having that mindset, kind of like that growth mindset, that this is gonna be okay, and we're gonna, like, making it a positive, you know. Although there's still all the struggle moments, you know, you have to remind yourself, but it does help, you know, the whole situation too.
Absolutely. And a girlfriend of mine had texted me a while back 4 questions that have really kind of shifted how I take something that was not really favorable, or not something that I would have chosen if I was going to choose, and flipping it around. And it's, what does this make possible? What is the blessing? What is the opportunity and the gift?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And I just texted it to a client last night because of the situation was something that they wouldn't have chosen. And it's like, well, if you look for the lesson, you're going to find the lesson. And then things are going to fly into my eye and stab me. Okay.
I'm just glad my child hasn't come through my office door yet. So
it happens. My kid usually pops around the corner to say hi or ask for a snack or something. But every time I essentially invite him in, then he doesn't come.
Right.
Is there a book that's been, especially since you're publishing, but is there a book that's been instrumental in your personal development journey?
Since becoming a parent, I've read some parenting books. I liked the Parenting with Love and Logic book. You know, of course, when you have these books, they are kind of extreme, but you take what you want from it. And I took a lot of good stuff from that one. And then I just read the Anxious Generation book. And I think that was a super interesting book. I would recommend it for all parents. It talks about a lot of stuff as kids are older, but my kid's starting elementary now, and, you know, they're around kids who will have the screens and all that. So it was really eye-opening and interesting. Yeah. And then on a business front, I've been reading like founder stories. I'm reading the Phil Knight Shoe Dog, and that one's really interesting. So I'm trying to do a lot of those, like parenting self-help and like business self-help. And then I love to read the fiction, you know, in the evenings, but
you gotta read all, be well-rounded in your reading. Yeah. I'm not well-rounded in my reading. I'm like strictly personal development. Yeah. And I love parenting books that are disguised as or it's personal development books disguised as parenting books.
Yeah.
But the Anxious Generation is on my list, and I was looking for it. I think I've actually bought it with my Audible credit, and I was looking for it because I'd finished my other book, and I was like, okay, next. While I'm sitting in the dentist chair, like, what am I going to listen to? I didn't know my book was going to end right when I sat down. So I was looking for it, but I couldn't remember what it was called. So thank you for bringing that back into my life.
Yes, you after when you're done with it, you'll have to let me know what you think, because I highly recommend it. It was really interesting.
Yeah. My girlfriend is a parent educator, and she's currently in South Africa, where she's from, visiting, and she's certifying me as a parent educator, and she was supposed to do that the weekend that she ended up going to South Africa as a kind of a last minute trip that she's been wanting to do forever. So she said as my homework that I need to read that book. And so I'm 99% sure that I bought it with my Audible credit. And it's very possible that I got distracted by a different shiny book. So
right.
Yeah. But I know that if I said this on the last podcast, if I had a time machine and could go back, I would ungive my son the phone that I gave him to communicate with his dad, not because I didn't want him to communicate with his dad, but because I didn't want him to do have access to all the other things that are on the phone. But you know, you live and you learn, and then you get loves. Yeah. I can't say live and learn without saying and then get loves.
Right.
So the marketing worked.
Yeah, right. We got to figure out a catchphrase for Mom Bear books now.
Yes, come up with a catchphrase because they work, and jingles work too.
Yeah.
Where can our listeners find you?
So our website is mamabearbooks.com. And then I'm pretty active on social media, on Instagram particularly, and it's mamabear_books. So yeah, I love to connect with people. And like I had said at the beginning, I have found such a positive community on Instagram. You know, I know maybe 1% of the people who are following me on there. And I mean, of course, the people who are my friends are supportive, but I have all these people that I've never met in person that I feel like I know now. So that's been super fun. So connect with me there. Yeah.
Really fun. And of course you said Mama Bear, so that like triggered a story that I will tell. But one of the things that my friend who's the parent educator said is that when we think of Mama Bear, usually we think of that fierce, ferocious, you know, protector, right? When actually a Mama Bear will allow baby bear to get into trouble in order to allow it to fight its own way out of the battle, while she's hovering on the side to protect that baby bear, but not get involved unless something's actually gonna hurt the baby. And so my friend said, instead of being a mama bear, mama like a bear. And you know, and so I was like, well, that's such a cool little thing. But
it is. Yeah, no, it is. And that's, you know, I love that you said that, because that ties in so well with what we were talking about with like the Love and Logic and the Anxious Generation book. Because as parents, we've gotten so, we'll come and save our kid. We'll come and save our kid. There's nobody outside anymore. We're the broken bones, you know, from falling out of a tree. And so those books talk about, you know, kids need to get skin knees and make, you know, bad choices now when they're young before it really affects them negatively when they're older. And those, you know, mistakes now and not rescuing them now will prevent those other things in the future, you know.
My husband grew up in the desert with lots of off-road vehicle. And on-road vehicle kind of toys. But he was really good at riding a bike and doing flips and such. And so, you know, kind of latchkey, but not really. Like his parents were home, but they were like free range children. Right. And when he was young, he learned how to fall. And there's a way to fall where you don't hurt yourself. And if you learn when you're young, then when you're old and you fall, then you don't break something. And so we were at a parade the other day, and I don't remember, I wasn't there, but I don't remember all of the details, but I think he stepped in a hole and his ankle kind of, you know, twisted, and he like did this 180, 360 kind of flip and didn't fall down.
Yeah.
Because when he was a kid, he would do that, and he learned the proper way to fall. If he
Right.
hadn't done that in that moment, he would have broken his ankle.
Right.
100%.
Right.
Yeah. But it was like he has this um superpower to, like, in the moment be like, okay, if I put the pressure on the foot right now, it's gonna break the bone. So I gotta do whatever I can to not put the pressure on the ankle. And when we helicopter parent, we prevent that kind of learning.
Right. Absolutely.
And I don't know why this was a thing. It wasn't a conscious thought, so it must have just been kind of this intuitive hit. But I am afraid of heights, and I'm afraid of spiders. And when my son was 16 months old, he wanted to climb. And so he's climbing this rock at the park, and I'm just standing there with my hands behind him, just an inch or two behind him. So if he falls, I've got him.
Yeah.
But he never, like, and that kid will climb anything now. And when, and he never, like, I don't think he's afraid of spiders now. He's not a big fan of them because there's one that likes to bite him in his bed sometimes.
No.
But I remember one time at a summer camp, we were watching a wasp and a black widow fight it out on, like, the wasp was stuck in the black widow's nest, or web. And they were fighting it out, and I was like, oh, this is nature at its finest. And he's over there just, like, wide-eyed, like, watching it, like, so fascinated. And I'm like, yeah, that's so cool. You
go over there.
Go over there and watch that.
I'll be over here.
Be over here for sure. But it's like I didn't want him to learn the fears that I had to the best of my ability.
Yeah, same.
So, yeah. Well, I want to say thank you for joining the podcast and for sharing all that you're doing in the world, and for giving authors a way to get their creativity out into the world as an author.
Yeah.
It's hard. Like, I felt like it's a lot easier now to find publishing companies and find, to get published. But I'm so appreciative to everybody who takes the time to get authors' works out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good. I'm appreciative for you, for all of your positivity, and thanks for having me on. It was fun to talk with you.
Yeah, thank you. We will have another episode of Imperfect Momming for you all coming next week. And until we meet again, keep healing. Bye, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to Imperfect Momming. It's time for us to step up and realize that our power is not in trying to shape our children. Our power lies in shaping ourselves into the people we want our children to model themselves after. Don't just do it for your kids. Do it for yourself. When you become a more self-aware, compassionate, and confident person, you and everyone around you benefit. For more information about me and my work, visit AliciaLyons.com. That's ALYSIALYONS.com. See you next time.